Alright, so the Wave 5 rebalance is finally here. In this video, I'm going to be covering all the changes they made to the mechs and weapons and talk about a few extra details about the rebalance and stuff. So, before we get into it though, I want to make a slight note that I'm going to be covering the nerfs and reworks first, and then after that I will cover the buffs, because most of the buffs aren't that interesting for the most part, so I'm going to keep them at the last. First off, we're just going to be covering all the nerfs. So first off, we have Burrow beams. So what we have here is a percentage of total damage applied to shields or shield mods is 30% now. That essentially means 30% of the total damage will bypass shields or shield mods. Reload speed has increased from 3 seconds to 4.5 seconds, and damage per shot has been increased a bit. Now these numbers might not look like a lot, but there are some important things to cover here. But before we cover those, I do want to get into a damage comparison test before and after the nerf. It is essentially a kill time test of my Burrow beam build, just to showcase the difference. Do keep in mind, I do not recommend considering this in a general gameplay aspect, because there's still a lot of other things to consider when it comes to the Burrow beam. This is just to see the difference of the weapon before and after. That's about it. Now, with all these tests aside, I do want to make one important note, is that Revokers and Burrow beams are going to be much more relevant in the current meta, due to the fact that these weapons outperform Burrow beam in most scenarios, which are relevant in like general gameplay when it comes to max level, which I'll explain as we go forth. But I do want to point out though, before Burrow beam, Epic Implants was more than enough for Burrow beam as far as things go before the nerf. Epic Implants were more than enough, but after the nerf, you pretty much need legendary implants, or else you're not going to do anything with this weapon for the most part. You pretty much need the legendary implants. When it comes to max level, that is. Low SP, you can still use the epics and do very good with it, but the higher level, you pretty much want all the legendary implants. And also keep in mind, before the nerf, people were running two variations of implant setups for Burrow beams. So the first variation is essentially the mag size with the fire rate, just two implants. Since the Burrow beams had enough firepower to kill basically anything back before the nerf happened, two implants were more than enough in most scenarios, so they could use two ability implants. So two weapon implants, two ability implants for like most mechs. That's what it used to be. But the other variation is using the damage implant and all three weapon implants, the damage, fire rate, and the mag size. This people used to use it on Surge and Seeker, these two mechs specifically. Since these mechs do not have that much HP, it is better to decrease the kill time with this, so that we kill targets much faster. That's how people used to do it for these two mechs specifically. Now, after this nerf, you pretty much need all three weapon implants. Like all three weapon implants you have to run for pretty much any Burrow beam build of 24 energy specifically. If you're going for 32 maximum energy, then you can try out some combos like Lockhorn or Mimicker, then kind of skip one of the implants for Burrow beam. But in a 24 energy capacity scenario for Burrow beams, you pretty much need all three weapon implants, else it's not going to do great. Like, you could use two implants and make it work, but do keep in mind that only will work in the sense if the enemy has scouts like Surge or Eclipse. And in most cases, that's not the case, because people are running mechs like Citadel and Deathwalker, very beefy tanks. In that regard, they will kill you before you do anything to them, like literally. It will take you like 2 or like even 3 entire mags to kill mechs like this. So you pretty much want to have the damage implant to maximize the damage output as much as possible, which is going to be very necessary, especially in Hangar Showdown in like competitive fights as far as things go. Now, with all of that said, I don't think Burrow beams are going to be top meta. Like, I don't think they're top meta anymore, pretty much, for two main reasons. First off, damage resistance, and second off, shield based abilities. The damage resistance is essentially mechs like Blizzfrost, Nomad, Parasite, and like Vortex. These are like very common legendary mechs that you will see everywhere, even like max level. And the reason why I say damage resistance is essentially damage resistance of any mech will apply to the mods as well. For example, a Nomad that dashes gains 60% resistance. That 60% resistance will apply to its mod shields as well, except for Galvanic, which doesn't matter as much. But the main thing is that it applies to the mod shields, the A mod shields, which are like the perimeter multilayer and stuff. And the longer that your mods stay up, the less damage you're taking to your direct HP, which is what it does, because the damage resistance also applies to mods, so your mods are much stronger, which is pretty bad for Burrow Beams. Like, it significantly kills Burrow Beams. So you're gonna be taking like multiple max to kill something like a Nomad. So the mitigation is very crazy for stuff like this. So we can actually see like Nomads more commonly these days. Usually people do not use Nomad that much because it gets hard countered by Blizz and Citadel. But I think after this nerf, Nomad will be a bit more common to see in more higher level fights as far as things go. Now, when I mention shield based abilities, it is none other than the Citadel itself. Now, even after the modifier goes down, I still think Citadel is going to be easily S tier. I don't know about the top meta, but I think it's still going to be very strong. I think it'll be tied with the Blizzfrost because ability is very, very good for hard countering a lot of the other legendary mechs. And also the Burrow Beam nerf makes it so that Citadel can also hard counter Burrow Beams as well. Because even with one magazine, you will only take down the shield. That's all you will do. You still have to deal with the mech itself, which is the issue there. So yeah, Burrow Beam is going to suffer significantly against these two. And also keep in mind, Blizzfrost and Citadel are very, very common to see these days. You'll see them everywhere for the most part. That's why I don't think Burrow Beams are going to be like very top meta anymore. I think it's like borderline meta if it's lucky, but yeah. The damage output is really lackluster, and there's too many high HP mechs, like around like Deathwalker, like Outlaw. Outlaw is also pretty tanky. Like even Salvor as well. It's not that it's used in competitive, but it is pretty tanky as well. And you will see it in some team plays. And like there's just like a lot of mechs. If you're just accounting for Eclipse and Surge alone, which are like the baseline scouts, anything like around 200,000 HP, Burrow Beams will do fine. But like when you're facing like these high-powered tanks, which you're going to see very often, it's not going to do that great. And like damage resistance and everything that we include, even though Nomad's HP is below 200,000 as we mentioned, it has the damage resistance, so it'll survive for twice as long, even thrice as long as we can add that. But yeah, so this begs the question: is Burrow Beam worth investing anymore? Honestly, I don't think so. If you want, just go for compound beams. I think, like I've mentioned before itself, compound beams are going to take over Burrow Beams after the nerf. Pretty much go for compounds on Citadel, Blizz. It's much better. And I think there's a good spot for Revokers as well, because in a comparison, actually I did not record this by the way, but I saw a comparison when Revoker Blizzfrost versus the Burrow Beam Blizzfrost. The Revoker Blizzfrost won by a pretty significant margin due to the damage resistance, as I mentioned again. So yeah, and since the reload time is also very long, it just overall the Burrow Beams have a very long cycle time. They have a very long cycle time. To the point where, in that time, Revoker can pretty much guarantee a kill in most of those scenarios. Also, the reload time is a bit longer than before. Now, even though it doesn't seem like a lot, there are a lot of outlaws everywhere which will like easily cook this weapon for the most part, especially during modifiers. Outlaw can permanently crash lock this weapon. Like you cannot do anything with the weapon entirely, because with the cooldown modifier plus implant, Outlaw's cooldown is like 4 seconds, so you can permanently crash lock the weapon basically. So that's the reason why I think the Burrow Beams are not that great. So yeah, that's about the Burrow Beams. Next up, we have the Deathwalker rework, where they fixed the cooldown bug. So the cooldown is not going to be 10 seconds anymore, it's going to be 15 seconds, and the reanimate HP restoration has gone down from 10% to 5%. Now, overall, I don't see a difference in Deathwalker's performance as far as things go. Now, do keep in mind there is a modifier going on, ability cooldown modifier, as you can see here. Now, this might be the reason, but as far as things go, I don't see a performance difference in terms of Deathwalker. Like, it's still the same. The Deathwalker is still the same. You just go in, rush, kill enemies, and come back. You're just gonna have to wait for your ability a little bit longer. That's the only downside. So mechs like Seeker and Nomad might be able to catch you off guard pretty easily. But apart from that, I don't think it's a big issue. Because from the beginning, yet again, Outlaw was the major counter to Deathwalkers. Because if you go into a max level, like custom matches, Deathwalkers are completely garbage. Like, at max level, Deathwalker is not that good. Because there's always outlaws everywhere, basically. Like, every time there's going to be an outlaw everywhere. And Deathwalkers are not going to be able to do much. Also, keep in mind there's a new mech tail sting coming, which will be able to counter Deathwalker. But I don't think it hard counters Deathwalker by a lot. I have seen the new mech, but I don't think it hard counters Deathwalker by a lot. But we're going to have to wait and see until it comes in the live server. But overall, Deathwalker is still the same. So, I mean, Deathwalker is still worth investing. There isn't a difference at all. I think the only difference is when it comes to max level, it'll make a little bit of a difference. It'll make it easier to kill in max level. But generally, Deathwalker is still Deathwalker. Next up, the Soulless nerf. This one is honestly pretty unnecessary, and it's kind of weird as well. Like, I think I like it for the most part. I don't know why, because I still like I don't know, man. I kind of like it this way though. For some reason, I actually like the Soulless being this way for some reason. But to be fair, I think this nerf was kind of unnecessary. They kind of killed the team play aspect of it. But it is still worth using, because the fact that it can get in and out of situations relatively quickly. Now, one thing I do want to point out is I actually tried charge rockets on the Soulless, and one thing I did notice is the speed boost does not stack. It already has 80% speed boost. The speed boost does not stack along with the charge rockets, so you don't get that extra speed boost with the charge rockets combined. So you will only get the speed boost from the ability or the charge rockets. Neither of them stack together, so you don't get like a very crazy fast mech. It's still moving like at 80% of that speed as far as we can see. So yeah, that's that. So overall, I think this mech is more of like an ideal hangar showdown type thing. I think we can actually see some gameplay for this in like hangar showdown or like 5v5 modes. I would not run this in team play personally, because like Outlaw is like the overall best support mech, backline support mech. I don't think nerfing Soulless was necessary, because at the beginning, Outlaw was just far better because it was able to counter everything sitting in the back. So I think honestly this nerf was kind of unnecessary, but it is what it is. For the most part, I think this will only be useful for like hangar showdown and stuff like that. I wouldn't really consider this in like a team play scenario as much. The duration is very short. You cannot make the most out of it for the most part. So yeah, I wouldn't really consider it as much. I would still use it for hangar showdown though. I think it is very flexible in hangar showdown for the most part. So I think it's definitely worth considering there. Next up, we have the Nomad and Dreadnought rework. And I will be honest with you, these two nerfs, the most garbage rework, not even rework, nerf that they have ever done, to be fair. This is the most garbage nerf, and honestly, it does not do anything. So what they've done essentially is that they've decreased the damage output of the ability across all ranks except for max level. Now, this was intended to stop SP droppers, but I'll tell you what, it does not do anything to SP droppers to scratch the surface at all. SP droppers will still be able to SP drop with a kill shot. They will still be able to SP drop with a Volti. They can SP drop with anything, any rank 3 mech that does damage, ability damage. They can do it with anything. They can SP drop with a Tengu. You can SP drop with many other mechs. There's no specific requirement to SP drop with a Nomad or a Dreadnought. And also keep in mind, I think Dreadnought and Nomad SP dropping was already killed after the tournament update that they've done, where the matchmaking is based on the tournament ranking points. Because these two mechs were only popular for SP dropping because of tournament back in the day, because tournament was mostly based on kills, and if you had a lot of kills, you would win most of those tournament points. That was because of the old tournament system. But because of the new tournament system, not a lot of people SP drop. But even still, it is a very annoying thing because people can still use these to exploit playoff events and other stuff. Like you can still use like a dreadnought or nomad, and like I was having like a playoff yesterday for the citadel. People were like SP dropping with like dreadnought citadels and like grinding playoff events. So like I think they need to just fix the matchmaking. Like honestly, they need to fix the matchmaking. I don't think nerfing these mechs are gonna solve it because they can still like use a one-handed weapon, drain the enemy's HP down to the last drop, use the abilities to finish them off. Like they can, like most SP droppers already do that. So I don't think reducing the damage does anything to SP droppers as far as concerned. What this nerf does is just screws over the players that are currently playing without SP dropping. I think this nerf currently only affects the players that are like playing with these mechs without SP dropping. It only affects these players for the most part. I don't think it affects SP droppers by a lot. People can still SP drop with many other mechs. So I think they should just fix the matchmaking and reverse these two nerfs. These are really terrible, guys. Like, it's really bad. I don't think it was necessary for the most part, and it does not do anything. It does not do anything. So yeah, now we're gonna get into the buffs. For the most part, I do want to say I do not have a Redox or Blast RPG, but I have seen how the Redox performs. The Redox after the buff is very funny. Now I will say this, I don't think this mech is meta or S tier at all. I think this mech is above average. So after the buff, I think Redox is above average. Like I would put it around A tier. I would say it is still worse than Mimicker, still worse than Orion and stuff. But I think it's better than most other mechs like Gatecrasher and like stuff like that. So I think it's better than like Gatecrasher. Maybe even better than Bastion, I don't know. But I think it's better than like Bastion or Vortex in some scenarios, but kind of comparable to them, I would say. I would say kind of comparable in most scenarios, I would say. But yeah, this mech is really fun to use now. Now, honestly, I would not invest resources in this. I don't think it's worth the A coins. And yet again, it's not top meta, so it's not worth it for the most part. Now, if you have this mech, I definitely go give it a try. Like, pause the video, go give the mech a try. This mech is really hilarious and funny. The way the mech moves itself is just really funny with the speed boost and everything. The personal shield it gets is just the same as a Juggernaut shield, and the animation is the same way as well, which is also very cool, which is what I like. This buff was a very nice buff, and it definitely makes Redox more usable. I definitely like that, and I think we can definitely see some Hanger Showdown gameplay for this as well. I will try to get my hands on this and try it out eventually, but for now I'm just going to leave it at that. When it comes to Blast RPGs, I think they're still mid for the most part. I haven't tried them out yet because it's really not worth the credits, guys. Like, the weapon is not really worth it still. I think this weapon is still kind of mid for the most part. Damage output isn't that crazy because like even these days, Stormracks itself are struggling for the most part. Even Stormrack 16s are struggling to kill like maxed bots very easily. So I wouldn't really expect Blast RPGs to do any better in most cases. Like I think it'll do decent, lower SPs. If you do have them, you can give them a try. But I wouldn't recommend Blast RPGs at all. Like the buff is fine, but still not a great weapon. And you just have better options at that rate. You have better options. I don't think it's worth it for the most part. Disc launcher buff is pretty good. The disc launcher buff is pretty good. The damage output is solid, but however, that is only the case if you're within the 60 meters of homing range. If you're shooting further than that, your damage output is still gonna suck for the most part. And what is funny is that even with this damage buff, it took me a full magazine to kill a cheetah. Like double eights with a rank 5 rare pilot, it took me a full mag to kill a rank 4 cheetah. It is crazy. Like the buff is okay, like the buff is pretty good, but it's still not enough damage, bro. It's still not enough damage. Like literally, it's not even scratching the surface, basically. Yeah. So yeah, I think the disc launchers are now usable. I don't think they're any game changer or anything. But to be fair, I think they do need to reverse the nerfs that they did for disc launcher in the past in order to make this weapon like moderately very good. For now, I think this weapon is like kind of like average. That's about it. I think this weapon is just like average. That's about it. I don't think it's like anything crazy or anything. When it comes to the chain gun buff, it's garbage. Chain gun is garbage, boys. Garbage. Still does not do enough damage. And like, it's really bad. Like, the damage output is really terrible. Like, I don't have anything to say about it for the most part. Damage output is still terrible. It's not very high. I think they need to give it more damage buff. I think they also need to increase the build-up speed of the weapon, so that way the weapon becomes a little bit more useful, so that way the weapon can dump its magazine out much faster. So I think they need to increase the build-up speed and like the fire rate, all of those things they need to do. They also need to reduce the reload because, yet again, heavy-duty weapons have only one downside in this game: outlaw. When outlaw exists, because outlaw is just like a top meta thing that's going to be in everyone's hangars right now. Like, every single hangar is guaranteed to have an outlaw. So heavy duty weapons just become irrelevant, except for the new one that's going to be coming tomorrow, which actually is pretty interesting. But yeah, apart from that, I don't really have much to say for the rebalances. Overall, all of these rebalances are pretty solid. I don't have like any major complaints against them. I do really dislike the Nomad and Dreadnought rebalance though. The nerfs are really unnecessary. I really hope they reverse it for the most part, because it does affect most of the players that are not SP dropping with them. So I don't think it's necessary. Those are all the big highlights about the rebalance. That's it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.